Okay, welcome everyone. Welcome to Kids in Mind, an episode series to provide support to families during the pandemic and also to discuss the needs of children and families generally. We've had some great topics over the series. And for those of you that might have missed the series, we've had topics about vaccination in kids, COVID in children, speech therapy, which is going to be very closely related to tonight's topic. And I suggest if you haven't seen that to also watch that one related to this topic. Also how to have fun conversations with families, how to communicate with grandparents from afar, and also how to manage extreme beliefs and health beliefs of others. But tonight, we're talking about social development. And social development is absolutely crucial for lifelong success. We know that social skills and social well-being is linked to personal and occupational outcomes. It helps kids make friends. It helps them understand other people, and the ability to empathise and to put yourself in the position of other gives you an amazing ability to problem solve. So today we're here to talk about social development in children, and in particular firstly what we might need to do in terms of understanding when social development might be impacted and delayed, and then what we might do about it, and what are some of the interventions that families can think about to support their kids. And today, I have Dr. Elizabeth Aylward from the University of Wollongong, who is a worldwide expert. I shouldn't use the word expert, but she's a highly knowledgeable in social development, has trained thousands of people across the country and families in improving social development in children and help parents to connect more effectively with their kids. Her centre down at the University of Wollongong collaborates widely with universities both in New South Wales, and has worked closely with us at the University of Sydney, as well as universities across Australia. Dr. Aylward, welcome.
Thank you, Adam. It's great to be here.
Liz, I'd just like to, I should actually say before we get going, is please put your questions in the chat if you have any. And also, if you have any questions after this seminar series, please write to kidsinmind@sydney.edu.au. So Liz, I'd just like to start, maybe if you can give us some background of the work you do at the University of Wollongong, around social development.
Okay, I work at the Early Start Lab at the University of Wollongong, which is a beautiful facility. It has a fantastic discovery space at the base of the lab for children and families to come 7 days a week and play in each of the learning spaces provided there and set up by early childhood professionals. We also run a lot of training programs, workshops for children with autism, families of children with autism. And I guess that is the area that brought me to the importance of the development of social skills and social development in young children.
So can I ask, when we're talking about social skills in young kids and even older kids, what are some of the things that we're talking about? What are the skills that help children over their development?
Okay, so we're talking about skills like attending to others with eye contact, sharing social smile, sharing enjoyment, listening to others, cooperating with others, being able to follow directions, self-regulation, being able to regulate and modulate their own arousal, learning how to say no appropriately, respecting the space of others, those kind of things that, lend themselves to forming friendships and relationships and navigating our way through the social world.
Yeah, right. And, it sounds like the changes in development over childhood lend itself to different skills that need to be developed at different ages. So it's sort of like a series of milestones that children have to reach at certain ages so that we know their social development is at an appropriate level. Is that right?
Absolutely. absolutely. And those, there are many developmental checklists that are available on the market that can help people to, keep a check on these things and monitor their own children.
Yeah. What are some of the milestones that, let's just, thinking about the life course, we're starting in really young kids, say, the first year of life. What are some of the milestones that parents might be wanting to look out for?
Okay, so in the first years, so milestones as in things going well, or milestones as in things that they need to worry about?
Well, maybe we'll start with what are the things that you expect to see in the first year.
Okay, all right. So we expect to see in infants an intense interest in the people around them and their faces, their voices, and everything that they're doing. We expect to see social smiles, the sharing of smiles. We expect to see lots of imitations starting to happen, like imitating that, wave, the nod of the head, the blowing of raspberries, all of these games that we play with babies. Then we expect them to see those things combined so that they're sharing smiles with eye contact and with gestures. So all of those things are happening together. Joined attention, so sharing that lovely triangle of attention with us and checking in to see if we're looking at what they're looking at the same time.
Sorry, you've just raised joint attention, which is, I think, widely regarded as one of the most important young child skills. At what age do you think we should be seeing joint attention, and what exactly is it?
So joint attention, well, what exactly it is that triangle of attention that the child initiates with their caregiver. So for example, if they're walking down the street with their parent and a plane goes overhead, they'll hear the plane, they'll look to the plane, they'll look back to see if their parent's looking at the plane, and then they'll point to the plane and see if the parent's following that point and showing the same interest in the same thing. And it's just that triangle of attention that they create. But in order for them to be able to reach that level of joint attention, which probably comes in at around 18 months plus, they need to be able to make eye contact, they need to be able to use a point, they need to be able to follow the point of their parent, and they need to want another to share in that attention.
Yeah. So it's almost like the awareness of that they need to be able to orient to the object or whatever it is that is the focus of interest, and then be able to look to another, usually their caregiver, to share in that interest in that object and to be able to navigate both. And that's what you mean by the triangle, I assume.
The triangle of attention, and just that social reward from getting another person sharing their same interest is very important.
Yeah, right. As children get older, say before we get to, just as they're about to enter school, what sort of skills are you hoping to see?
Those pre-readiness skills for school. That's a bit of a hot debate, but essentially, for children to be ready for school, they need to have developed these social skills. They need to be able to listen and follow instructions. They need to be interested in the people around them. They need to have independence skills in terms of, self-independence, dressing, undressing, lunch boxes, all of that sort of thing. But in terms of academic skills, reading, writing, they will learn all of that at school. And if they want to learn before school, then they'll show that, readiness to learn. But if they don't show that readiness to learn, then they will learn that at school. So
yeah, but around the social features, what are the key things around the ages of 5 that we want to see kids have?
The listening, turn taking, playing cooperatively with others, sharing ideas with others, sharing the lead from others, wanting to play with others, wanting to maintain those friendships. They're all really important social skills for a child starting school. And they learn all of those, from the moment they're born, because they do most of their learning in those early years through observational learning. And that observational learning comes from their caregivers and their siblings and all of those people around them.
And so we get a little bit older and we're sort of maybe 8 to 10 years of age. What would you class as a child that's showing really good social skills in that sort of those middle years?
Self-regulation, the ability to regulate their own behavior and the ability to regulate their own reactions and responses to things, an awareness of others and a respect for others' personal space and others' ideas, and absolutely being able to cooperate, work cooperatively with others, follow directions. Again, listening is such an important social skill. Yeah, so essentially the same social skills go through life, but they just become a little more advanced and a little more complex as the older we grow.
I mean, well, do they become more advanced? Because I'm pretty sure my teenager is losing his.
Well, that's the hope, Adam.
What happens in the teenage years? Do you see teenagers lose their social skills?
Well, we see them very well camouflaged often. Yes. Lots of reasons for that, I guess, but
yeah,
it's important. It's important to be talking about what we can do now at this earlier stage of development when, the brain is so plastic and we have so many opportunities to shape the circuitry of that child's brain just through our interactions with them.
Yeah, I mean, we've done a lot of research around, sorry for the background noise, but the biology of social development. And there's great variation in terms of genetic background, in terms of how social children are likely to be based on genetic background, but also that in the interaction with the environment plays a crucial role in that process. Yeah.
And, we have learned that over recent years, particularly over the last 10 years, I would say that, scientists have learned so much knowledge about early brain development and the role it plays in children's early learning and their behavior and development. This has helped us to understand the important role of the environment in shaping the child's brain and their behavioural development. And while we also know that this is genetically predisposed, it's actually those early experiences that are shaping the circuitry of our young child's brain. So the richer and the more positive that we can make those early interaction experiences, the more chance we have of shaping, a socially healthy brain.
Right. So maybe we'll move to when things, when parents should be concerned. What are some of the signs? And I know, again, at different ages there are different signs, but what are the most important signs that parents should be looking for and at what ages?
Well, strangely or not, for the first 6 months, as you would know, Adam, children's brains are tracking along at pretty much the same level in response to stimuli. And then at that 6 to 12 month point, children who go on to present with social disorders, developmental delays, Autism Spectrum Disorder, for example, they start to babble less, they start to pay less and less attention to the people around them. They stop using those lovely social smiles. They stop imitating the actions and the sounds and gestures of others. And they're literally falling out of the social loop. So it's at that point that if we can intervene at that point and bring that child back into the social loop at every possible opportunity, then we're giving them the best chance of becoming, getting closer to that typical developmental trajectory. But these are the early signs of disorders such as autism specifically, the difficulties that these children have and the difficulties that parents need to be aware of, even if it's not autism. Social sort of red flags for their child is when their child stops paying attention to people, when they start to become more focused on objects, than the people around them, because typically developing children are far more focused on the people around them. When they stop using eye contact, and when they stop using social smiles, when they stop combining the eye contact with the smile or the eye contact with the gesture, when that combination stops, that's a bit of a red flag. And when they stop imitating us and wanting to share attention with us, they're all red flags. Also, the lack of being able to regulate their own behaviour and arousal.
Right. There's often quite a big focus on imaginative play, and the differences between, if you like, imaginative play and is the word non-imaginative? Is there a different word to not?
No, it's just play. It's just play or pretend play.
Pretend play. Could you just? I mean, I think that's really, really important actually as a sign when you start seeing kids engaging in the non-pretend play. What does that look like? What do you see kids come in doing that causes you concern in play?
Well, the children who can't do pretend play or symbolic play, the children who take everything literally and can't imagine being on a swing in a park and that swing on the park being a boat in the sea bouncing over waves, and they get quite agitated if any other, symbolic version of that swing is suggested to them. And, play is such an important platform for a child's future well-being. And they learn more in their early years of development than at any other stage of their life, obviously, because of that plasticity in their brain. And play does contribute to that healthy brain development. If the child is typically developing, they can engage, they can interact, and they can learn to master the world around them just through play. And this learning underpins much of their future well-being. But sadly, on that note, Adam, the amount of time that children are spending playing each day has dropped so much over the last 2 decades. And that's had many repercussions on young children's learning and social development. And, with increasingly busy lives, academic, social, sporting and financial pressures, etc., play really has taken a back seat in terms of family, community and school priorities. And young children are showing high levels of stress and anxiety and depression. So that healthy balance between work and play for children is really paramount to their development and the long-term health and well-being of that child.
So I think, Elizabeth, you're most famous, I think, for all the great intervention work you do and the training that you do with your families around improving social play. And it can happen at any age. What's sort of the age range of children that you work with?
Well, 12 months up to six years at the moment is the most. But I've taught across all ages in my career, Adam, across all ages and through to tertiary, obviously. Yeah. But yeah, the last 25 years, my focus has been in the early childhood area.
Yeah, and we've actually taken on the work in the adults and when people are leaving school and teaching social skills at that age. But I was wondering, what are the key components of the interventions that really work to improve social awareness?
Okay, so just some of the key steps that parents can take. Because often we find that some parents are not sure about how they should be playing with their children or what play should look like. So it's really important if we start off that process of learning to play with our child so that we are continually promoting their social development. If we start off the process just by becoming their play partner, so that the child can learn that we are actually a fun and helpful play partner and, worth attending to and fun to be with. Make sure that we're sitting opposite them at their level and our eyes are as close at the same level as possible. so that we can draw their attention to our face and our voice and our actions, not by telling them to look at us, but just by making ourselves worth looking at and using lots of affect and gestures and sound effects and actions. And then the next step that is super important is being able to identify our child's spotlight of attention, what they're actually interested in this play, rather than assuming it, because it's more likely than not that it's going to be completely different to what we would think it was going to be. So if we just sit opposite them and watch what they're doing and comment on what they're doing, and then start imitating what they're doing the same actions, that is such a powerful reward for the child. They feel so valued and so worthwhile, and that someone is so interested in what I'm doing. Even if I'm just, drawing circles on a whiteboard, this person is so interested, and she's even copying me. So this is how we let a child lead us into their play, rather than, placing demands on them or asking questions or telling them what to draw or what to do, just letting them lead us into that play. Then once they've led us into that play, then we can step into the spotlight and, take up center stage, capture their attention to us, so that they're continually attending to people, because that's how they do most of their learning in those early years. And then obviously the very important thing is to always find their smile, because once we've found the child's smile, we know that we've captured their motivation, which is absolutely essential for their learning, to be motivated to learn. And having fun with those social games, routines, just things like peekaboo, pat a cake, open, shut them, all of those rhymes and finger plays and action games that we play are so important at this stage, because when we found the smile and we know that a child's motivated, then we also know that they're having more fun, and more fun means that they're learning at a faster rate and that they're going to get more learning opportunities because they're having fun. And this is actually the science behind fun. And then, next steps, building those back and forth interactions. This is how children learn to take turns in a natural way, not by saying my turn, your turn, but just having those back and forth interactions. So if you've taken the lead, give the lead straight back to your child and let them take the lead and show you what they want to do, what their idea is, and then take it back and then give it back. And this is how they learn turn taking in the most natural way. And this turn taking skill is so important for them right through life, from school right through to work, their profession, their work, whatever they're doing in the workplace. Another thing that is often missed in this process is making sure that we're listening to the talking body. So we're picking up on all the non-verbal cues in our children before they start talking. And if we're picking up on every one of those non-verbal cues and putting a word to it or commenting on it or imitating it, then we're actually promoting their communication development as well as their social development. And then, of course, do what I do. Children learn by imitating. So if they're not imitating, then we need to be teaching them to imitate. It's powerfully important for a child to learn to imitate. And our brains are actually set up to learn from watching other people. And this, this important social skill of imitation is, it does promote empathy. It does help a child to learn how to speak, how to use language, both verbally and non-verbally. It does teach a child how new things work. It teaches a child how to use certain items that they've never used before. It teaches the child how to learn those social rules and those social rules in conversation, which, means listening as well as speaking.
Yeah.
And it also allows children to learn from their peers.
And you see parents at your centre, I think you just came out of a 4-hour training session.
Yeah, I did. 4-hour workshop by Zoom.
I'm sure this is the first thing you wanted to do. I'm curious, what are some of the problems that parents walk into your centre with, saying that they're struggling to connect with their kids? What are some of the real world problems you see?
Yeah, that's struggling to connect with their kids, and that's the saddest thing for a parent to experience. And even the most conscientious parents will experience this if their child has social difficulties, social disorders, or neurodevelopmental disorders such as autism. And they're not able to connect with their child because their child has, drifted out of that social loop. They've drifted out of that social loop between 6 and 12 months of age. They've stopped paying attention to their parents. They've stopped interacting with their parents. They're far more focused on objects or unusual details in the environment, and the parent can't get into their world anymore. So that's why we go through those steps that I've just been through of, starting by becoming their play partner, just sitting with them and watching, commenting, imitating, and all of those other steps that I just talked about, to help the parent reconnect with their child. And they can, this is all so possible because children are so good at learning, and they're very quick at learning if we're, teaching them these important skills to start with.
And when I come home from work, I feel exhausted like every human being does after a full day's work. The last thing I feel like doing is often giving a lot of attention to anything. I really enjoy hanging out with my kids, I must say, but in that moment when I get home, I just want to flake out on the couch or something. And what do you suggest to parents if they're really struggling to find the time and the energy to play with their kids?
Yeah, look, of course, and this is the reality. And busier lives, less time for play, and less inclination for play because parents are working full time in a lot of situations, and both parents in the home, and they are utterly exhausted. And their child may have been in preschool or childcare all day, and hopefully that was a high quality preschool or childcare so that they were, learning wonderful things. But if the most that you can devote in a day is, half an hour to one-on-one time with your child, just working through those little steps that I've just talked about, then that is a huge daily gift that you can give your child. And even technology, it's really become quite prominent in our society with children, with families. It's really taken over a lot of the things that children used to do. So I think sharing in that technology experience with your child so that they're not stuck on a device and you're stuck on a different device, investigating things together. We have moved into a digitally saturated world. So it's actually more vital than ever that as parents, we continue to recognize and value the human interaction skills that are so important to our child's development and well-being. And, if all the time you have is to sit with them on their digital device and research something together, whether it's a Pokemon card or something that they've done today or something that you've both seen, or a machine over on the railway line, or whatever the child is interested in, if you can share that technology together and make that a meaningful interaction, then that will help them enormously as well.
Thanks, Liz. For parents that have got concerns about their child's development, social development specifically, what do you think they should do if they want professional advice? What are the steps that they need to follow?
It's really important to not sit on those worries. Parents know their children better than anybody, and if a parent is worried, then it's pretty likely that their worries are justified. So you need, first port of call is a GP, so that you can get a referral to a pediatrician or a speech pathologist or whatever the concern of development is for your child. There are other apps. There's a wonderful app that was developed by La Trobe University that parents can just jump onto. I can put those in. I can put those in that. Yeah.
ASD Detect.
AS Detect. AS Detect. Yeah, I was just about to say I can put those in the chat if you want. But that's a great app. It takes the parent right through their concerns and tells them at the end of that whether they this is a concern that absolutely should be followed up, or give your child another 6 months or so, whatever the conclusion of that is. But my advice, if a parent is concerned, because they know their child better than anybody, then don't sit on it.
I mean, one of the issues that they know their child better than anyone. I have to say, I see a lot of parents who adapt to their child as well. And so they don't realise that they're accommodating their child and making up for some of the things that their child doesn't do without realising it. I mean, I see that all the time. What's your experience of it?
Yes, we see a lot of that as well. And parents saying, oh, well, I didn't do such and such until I was 3 or 4, so I'm not worried. And we do see a lot of that, and they do adapt. And they think, that their child is very happy in his own little world. He's completely independent. He doesn't need me. But if your child is completely happy independently in his own little world at the age of 3, that is your biggest alarm bell, because your child should be wanting to be around people at that age the whole time. And that is, these neural pathways that are developing in a child's brain, they're firing at a faster rate and developing at a faster rate in the first 3 years of their life than at any other stage in their life. Up until the age of 5, still a fast rate, even up until the age of 8. And then obviously there's a slight decline right up until death. But they're firing at the fastest rate in those early years. So that's when changes can be made. That's when, the neural pathways of the brain can be redirected, strengthened, whatever needs to be done. Because the more a child is using a neural pathway, the stronger it becomes. So if they're not using those neural pathways for socializing with others and paying attention to others and talking with others, or even non-verbally wanting to interact with others, then those neural pathways are getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And that is something that is not going to be helpful for their whole of life, because they're the ones that we need to be making stronger and stronger and stronger.
So if we're talking early intervention, then if that's the goal, I assume they get a referral to probably a pediatrician or a developmental psychologist, possibly a neuropsychologist even, to do various assessments. And if a red flag comes out of that assessment that perhaps a social intervention is required, what sort of interventions do you recommend, and how do families know they're getting a quality intervention versus one that's
Okay, so a quality intervention is one with a good scientific evidence base.
Okay, right. Good. Tick. But most of our families don't, read PubMed on a daily basis. So,
no.
What should they do?
Their paediatricians will refer them to hopefully good intervention services. They can contact us at Early Start. I can put that link in to the chat as well. We provide a lot of services down there for children and families, and we do have a strong focus on the rural and remote families across Australia as well, so that we're continuing that service to areas that don't get any service at all. They should also be, in addition to all of these things, in addition to looking for an evidence-based social intervention, such as the Early Start Denver model, which does have a very strong scientific evidence base, and that's something that we are rolling out right across the world, all over the world at the moment, and we're rolling it out at University of Wollongong as well. You're doing it yourself, Adam, at USyd through the parent study. In addition to that, they do need to be looking for high quality children's services, preschools, and long day care centres, and high quality. So that's services who have achieved exceeding in all of their ratings in the scale that's applied to those services. And that is all on the website. They can find all of that on the website, and they can find a CEQA rating for those services on the website. So, look for those ones who are exceeding in all areas, and then you'll have a high quality service.
It's actually interesting in the speech development talk, the speech therapist made a big deal of the childcare centre as well, and high quality childcare being good for language development. As well as social development. I think to build on some of those comments though, I mean, the Early Start Denver model is a well-recognised model, and I know that you're and certainly one of the 3 trainers in that model in Australia, but it's not well used across Australia. There needs to be more therapists, I think we'd all agree, and finding therapists can be like, you've got more chance, probably finding a psychologist at the moment than finding a therapist. But
hey, well, I'm training up an army at the moment.
but the reality is, a good behavioural program, whether it's ESDM or a really rich ABA style therapy, or you don't.
Gaspar is another lovely social skills program.
But the fundamentals of it, if it's high quality, because you can get poor quality of all of these things, is that it's really trying to train those fundamental skills you talked about: eye-to-eye gaze, social attention to social smiles, joint attention, imitation,
receptive communication, expressive communication. And yes, the Early Start Denver model was obviously designed for children with ASD, but we have taken that out to community centres, and it's been applied to all children across those services, and had the obvious results, because it's all, the essence of that program is about bringing the child back into the social loop at every possible opportunity, so that they're learning from the people around them.
And I think it's fair to say that if the program that you have engages in those activities, and it's consistent every week, that it's probably going to be doing your child a lot of good if they need it. How, in terms of the frequency, I know there's a huge amount of frequency in terms of how much time parents should be engaging when there's concern.
Well, this is the beautiful thing about some of these models, and the ESDM is just one of them. There are other intervention models that do the same. It's not about a sit-down therapy at home. It's about embedding it in everyday moments, everyday routines. Bath time can be the richest social time for your child. Meal times can be turned from, not so pleasant times to really rich times for promoting social development in your child. Story times, getting dressed even, all of those routine times in the day can be turned into really rich therapy. So parents don't have to sit down in a made-up clinic room at a table opposite their child. No, they can do it in everyday moments, and we're running those packages for parents out of the University of Wollongong. We're running group programs, and we're running individual parent coaching programs, so they can learn these skills to work with their own children, and it's really important.
Okay. Look, I think that's all I wanted to ask for tonight. You've done a wonderful job. I think I've exhausted you after 4 hours on Zoom as well. Does anyone have any? I've actually asked a lot of the questions that have been put up on the chat, but I'll just offer the opportunity for anyone to ask any further questions before we finish up. I think the other thing to say is that the neurobiology of social development. We're starting to learn more and more about not only the external skills we see, but also how the whole body reacts to social engagement by the parent. And, we not only does it impact the child, but then the child impacts the parent. And I absolutely love the social dance that happens in play, and how it has a relaxing effect on both parties in the dance. In fact, whoever plays in the social dance, it has a calming effect, and is sort of how many times do you walk in stressed and worried about the world, and then you play with your child and it's a fun experience, and your entire body is affected, and that entire process causes bonding. It causes long-term bonding, and it's really, really important. So I think that what you're suggesting is really important over the seminar, and I hope everyone has gained from listening to your expertise, because you're just a wonderful therapist, Elizabeth, and I'm absolutely thrilled that you're able to speak to everyone today.
Thanks, Adam. It's been great being here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone. And we will see you next Wednesday night. And then I think we've got 2 more Kids in Mind planned at least. And then we'll be discussing what we're going to do after that. But I'll see you next Wednesday, and thanks very much.